Deciding upon what services to offer as a designer can be quite overwhelming because there's so many different services, and even if for example you're a UI UX designer or a web designer, you can actually go into development, you can go into user research, you can offer branding services, logo design, UI design, and all sorts of UX design in between. So there's really a lot to choose from, and in this video I want to show you some of the things which I personally consider when I'm looking to expand or decide upon a service that I want to offer. And this is something which I recently actually had to tackle because I want to expand my services to one more service, and I myself nowadays I'm really focused on UI UX design for websites, web apps, and mobile apps. However, I was really battled between learning some maybe front-end development with Webflow, or something like doing illustration or brand work or logo design. And these are all things that I enjoy, but one choice is going to make much more sense in the future compared to the other one. And in this video I want to show you the analysis process which I'm actually going through, and all of the key questions which you have to ask yourself whenever you're looking to pick a specific service, and see if that service really makes for a win-win situation for both you and your clients in the long run. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. Okay, so how to select a design service. Now, the very first question which you have to ask yourself is there a demand in the marketplace at the moment? Because this is something which is extremely important. You might love to do something, but if the demand isn't really strong, and if it's not going to be something which is going to be a good option in the long term, you might very well consider that as a very strong deciding factor. And you might actually want to do some research, and ideally you can actually figure out what your niche is, and find some business owners and actually ask them if is this service potentially something which they could be interested in. So this you can do this with a variety of methods. You can use surveys, you can use especially surveys on places like Facebook groups and things of that nature that can be really useful. Or you can even direct email these people, but that's going to take a little bit of more time, but it's definitely something to consider. Now, the second thing is it's kind of a question which follows up the first one, which is does this service bring real value to my clients? So this is something which is really important, because at times we might think that a service, or specifically when it comes to design services, we might think that it's something that can bring real value, but maybe doesn't bring as much value as we think to the client. So we really have to dig deep into this, and really figure out what brings more value and what doesn't, and not just think about ourselves for a moment. Now, as a follow-up is the third question, which is there enough money to be made to make it worth my time on these type of services? Now, this really depends on the type of person. If you're looking to make quite a significant amount of money, you might shy away from a certain type of services, while at the same time maybe you're into something which is very creative, which is very fulfilling for you, and even though the money is going to be more limited than something in another type of service, maybe it really makes it worth maybe it's really worth it for you. So this is a question which you have to ask yourself, and each and every answer is different for each and every person, so just keep this in mind. Now, the fourth question would be, would I enjoy offering this service in the long term? So is this something which I would like to do for years and possibly even decades? So if you're looking to go into UX design, for example, maybe you already tried and done a few projects, and you have to actually ask yourself, is this something which I would like to do long term? Is UX design something which I adore and I really enjoy doing? So this is definitely a very important question, because at the end of the day, even if you marked yes in the previous questions, but on this one you're a little bit hesitant. You're like, I don't really know if this is something that I want to do long term. It's definitely something to consider, because it's super important. Now, the fifth question is this an evergreen service? And by evergreen, I'm referring to the fact that is this a type of service that is going to be around for a long time, or is this kind of something that is going to last a few years, maybe a decade, but eventually it's going to be replaced by other type of services, or maybe AI or things of that nature. I mean, there's a lot you can overthink on this one, but just keep it basic for now, because at the end of the day, most services are going to, in some way, shape or form, remain in the design field, especially things like, log design, UI, UX design. But just consider this as something to be quite important. Now, the sixth question is, do you have what it takes to eventually get to the top 1%? And by that, I'm really referring to your skill set and ability to execute on that specific service. Now, my frame of mind is whatever service I offer, I want to be exceptional eventually at it. And this is something which is super important, because if you get in the top percentile of your field, you're going to get much better clients. You're going to sell much more easily. Sometimes you won't even need to sell, and life is going to become much more easy. So this is something which you always want to look, especially when it comes to the long-term vision. So you don't want to start offering a service with the end goal of you just being mediocre at that service, but you really want to understand what are your strengths, what are your what is your skill set like, and what do you think you have maybe a natural talent, or I don't really believe in talent, but maybe more in predisposition, because at the end of the day it's all about hard work, it's all about practice, and you can make a humongous amount of progress if you really put your mind to it. But each and every one of us has natural predispositions, and maybe we like doing one thing compared to the other. So you want to be aware of that, and you really want to think, hey, where is my natural predisposition, and where do I think that in the long term I can really get to a great place if I really put my mind into it, and I put a lot of effort into this. So yeah, this is just something to consider. And let's move on to the next one. Okay, so the next one is how steep is the learning curve, and is it worth it long term? So an example of this could be learning something like basic UI design compared to advanced concept illustrations. Now, if you're looking to learn some advanced concept illustrations, the ones like you see on the Marvel game or things of that nature, you can immediately understand how steep that learning curve is going to be, and there's a lot of factors involved, while maybe doing some basic UI design is going to be easier. And again, this really depends on the type of person you are. A lot of variables, but you can understand the concept and where I'm going with this concept of how steep is the learning curve. And you really have to think this through and decide if it's going to be worth it in the long term for you. So something to keep in mind. But again, guys, in the long term, if you really put your mind into it and you put a lot of effort, anything is achievable. So never ever limit yourself. So the next question is how complex is delivery of the service to clients? And this is something that you want to consider, especially if you're looking to work 100% remotely, because some services are very hard to deliver remotely, or even impossible to deliver remotely. So you have to keep this in mind, and you also have to keep this in mind at a local level. So how is delivery going to happen? How is the revision process going to be like? And am I going to enjoy that process? Can I streamline it? Or is it going to be highly customized each and every time? Like there's some variables which really depend case by case, but just something to really consider. Now, the next question is this in line with my personal brand and personal values? And this can apply also if you have an agency. So is this in line with your agency's brand and the agency's values? So you really have to think this through and think about the identity and the overall service package which you're offering. Sometimes offering a lot of services and services which are really different between one another, especially if you're a solo freelancer, can actually harm you more than doing good, because you never want the client to see yourself as a supermarket where you're selling all sorts of different stuff. You really want to niche down and focus on things that you're really great at and that you can provide a lot of value to them. So yeah, this is definitely something to absolutely consider. Now let's move on to the next one, and that is if money was no object, would I do this in some way, shape or form as a hobby? And I really want you to think about this and think about the fact that if you were born in an alternative reality where there wasn't the need to make money, so everything you want you can just get, would you still do this in one shape or form as a hobby? So this is definitely something to consider. And this is pretty much it. I'm sure that there's going to be some other really great questions that maybe I missed, but I'm considering and I'm evaluating subconsciously as I made my decisions when it comes to selecting a service. But if you have anything in mind regarding these questions, feel free to leave a comment below and let me know, because that would be really useful. And so especially for other people, watching this video and making this critical decision, which is going to be fluid. I mean, services can change in the years. You can learn new stuff. You can discover things. So this is a fluid process. But yeah, guys, just keep these things in mind. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please leave a thumbs up below. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I guess I'll see you in the next video.